Hello everyone. In today's video I'm going to show you how I made this cornbread from a freeze-dried batter by just adding water. Now this was an experiment, so I'm going to show you, because the first attempt at reconstitution didn't work, so I'm going to show you that fell. I like to normally focus on the positive, but I think in this case I should show you my failed reconstitution so that you don't make the same mistake I did. But in the end, at least in appearance right now, it looks like that came out good. At the end of the video we'll do a taste test on this and just see how good it tastes. So having said that, let me get this cleared away and we'll start the video. Okay, thanks to one of my viewers who suggested that she was going to try making my taco casserole, but she wanted to do the cornbread mix separately. And I chatted back and forth with her on that video, and I thought, you know what? Let's see if we can make and freeze dry a cornbread batter. So I got Aunt Jemima yellow cornmeal, and we're going to follow her recipe on the package, and I'm going to double it up. So first thing we need is 2 cups of cornmeal, 2 cups of flour, 4 tablespoons of sugar. This is a sweet cornbread. I'm sure that you could do without the sugar if you don't like sweet cornbread, but I did try this recipe before making this video and it tastes pretty good, sweet. So 4 tablespoons. So 8 tablespoons if I'm doubling it up. 1, 8. Alright. 4 teaspoons of baking powder. Now I am not going to add the baking powder to this mix, and the reason being, once we get this all mixed up into a batter, I'm going to freeze dry that. If I add the baking powder to this mix, when I mix it up, it's going to activate from the moisture and create the bubbles that you want in cornbread to make it airy. But we don't want that to happen before we freeze dry it. Otherwise, then when I reconstitute it, there's no activation. You won't get a bubbled up, fluffy cornbread. So we're going to put the baking powder in a separate little baggie from this. And when we freeze dry this, I'll just include baking powder with the packaging. So we're going to skip over the baking powder. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So we're going to do 1 teaspoon because I keep forgetting we are doubling up this per recipe. 1 teaspoon of salt. And we're going to mix that all together. Obviously you couldn't do this with the Jiffy Mix because the Jiffy Mix has the baking powder mixed in with the mix. So that's why we have to go the route of making our own cornbread mix. Alright, so calls for 1 cup of milk, so we're going to do 2 cups of milk. Then it calls for an egg, so we're going to add 2 eggs. And I apologize for the sound there, but we live in a mobile home, so. Alright, here we're going to add, it says 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. Well, we're making a batter, that we're not cooking, and I'm not going to use vegetable oil because that doesn't freeze dry well. But I found that I tried it with applesauce, and the applesauce comes out nice. So 1/4 of a cup, so we need 1/2 of a cup of just applesauce. And it probably should be unsweetened, but I got Musselman's original applesauce. No added high fructose corn syrup or anything. Let's see if they even added sugar to this. Ingredients: apple, sugar. Yeah, so there is sugar added to that. So it is sweetened. Alright, so we'll mix this up into a batter. Okay, so we got that all mixed up. And I want to get pretty precise on the weight of these discs, so I know how much water to add to each of the discs to reconstitute. Let's zero that out. Now each one of these discs is about 1/2 cup. And in my test batch with the pans I'm going to use, I used about 1 cup in each pan. So we're going to do 4 discs, and we're going to get the average weight of each one of these discs before freeze drying it. Let's go grams. Grams are nice. So there's 500 grams. Yeah. 500 grams. So I've got that on video, so now I know. So each disc weighs 125 grams fresh. That's what I need to know. 125 grams. So we'll weigh these when they're freeze dried. We'll know how much water to add. Alright, that's 750 grams. I'll get those in the freezer. Alright, there's 750 on the second one. So that makes 12 total discs for that mixture I mixed up, which will be, I got these shallower pans and a little bit smaller, just to show you how this came out. I did a test batch because I wasn't sure if the applesauce would work. Came out pretty good. So we'll call that good for this load. Just to, I don't want to overboard. I could fill the whole freeze dryer up, but I want to make sure that these will still rise when we add the baking powder to the dry mixture. So we'll stick with the double mix on the Aunt Jemima yellow cornmeal bag recipe, doubling that up. I get these in the freezer. I got some other things that I'm going to put in the freezer with this stuff in the freezer dryer. So we'll get this going. It should be a fairly quick cycle. We'll see you when they come out. Okay, here we have it. Here's the cornmeal batter, all freeze dried, the pucks. That batter is actually kind of heavy, but I'm going to show you how you could pack it and how I'm going to pack it. You could use the pint jars and drop them in. Get 4 in there, and then you put your O2 absorber in there, but that doesn't really going to leave room for my baking powder, which we have to add. So That's how you could pack them with there, and then you'd have to have baking powder available. But I'm going to do it differently. And what I decided when I baked up my sample batch was that 3 of those discs, I think I might have said 2 earlier, but it's actually 3 of those discs fit, will make a cornbread. And I'm going to make sure that's dry in the center, because that's such a thick batter. And they seem to be dry, pretty much dry. It was about 38 hours process, but I did add time to that. Alright, so let me get my cheat sheet out, because I did a calculation. I did a calculation on this, and the Aunt Jemima recipe called for 4 teaspoons of baking powder, and I doubled the recipe, so it was 8 teaspoons I needed, and I ended up with 12 discs. So doing the math, each disc was 2/3 of a teaspoon. So I am going to use 3 discs in my cornbread, so I need 3 2/3. So that would be 6/3, which is 2 teaspoons. Hopefully you followed me on that math. So I just got a normal little Ziploc bag here, and I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of baking powder in that bag. And I'm not going to seal it, but I'm just going to kind of roll it so it don't mix up in there. And I'm going to throw that in with the cornbread mix. And I'm going to seal it up. Get rid of any sharp edges I can on there. Alright, so I should end up. To make that easier, let's powderize that. Right. And right off the bat, I see something I forgot, so we're going to have to fix that in here a second. One, 2. We'll take care of it. We'll be consistent on that too. Okay. Now I'm going to try something on these. On this next one, this is the one we're going to reconstitute and eat. I'm going to try and reconstitute one of those discs without breaking it up, just to see what happens. Plus we need to wait on that one anyway. Now Now what I forgot to do here is do my jalapenos, and I wanted to keep them separate just in case when I reconstitute we want something that isn't going to have jalapenos in it. So I'm just going to make 3 bags of jalapenos, and these were just jarred jalapenos that I freeze dried. Try to divide that into 4. There's not a lot of jalapeno in there, but that'll do. And we'll just seal those in when I wrap these up. And for this one, I think I'll just dump this one into the one we're going to reconstitute. Get all that powder. Okay, so when we trade these up, we said that weighed 125 grams. And it now weighs 66 grams. $125 minus 66. And 59 grams of water we need to add per disc times 3. So it's 177 grams total of water for 3 discs. Let me get these wrapped up. Okay, so I put my mix and the jalapenos, and inside the mix has the little baggie of baking powder. I'll put a 300 cc in there. We'll get this all air sealed up. Alright, that's fantastic. So I got these sealed up, vacuum sealed nice and tight. And rather than waste my rolled material, because this is very expensive, the Mylar rolls, I got these bags that I bought from the same place, discount MylarBag.com. But these bags, I just tried one and it fits in the bag, so I'm going to use the pre-made bag rather than waste my rolls. I need those for my big deep dish concoctions. Alright, so once again, like before, I'm going to go overboard. I'm going to put another 300 cc in the outer bag. We'll get these sealed up. Alright, so we got those all packaged up. Those go into my long-term storage. Now to get my 177 grams of water. Alright, what do we end up with? Just out of curiosity. 3/4 of a cup of water. Alright. So first thing I'm going to try to do is dump this water, so I'm going to do it in this. I want to see if that disc will rehydrate just the way it is. Initial response is no. Not easily anyway. let's add this to my other stuff. And let's see how this experiment is going to turn out. Okay, I want to make a command decision here. Rather than waste your time doing this, and mine doing this for you, trying to get those chunks to reconstitute, what I'm going to do is go open one of those packages, get my blender out, and we're going to try it a different way. Alright, so let's try it this way. Let's open one of these up. We got to get this right, don't we? If it's going to work, it's going to work. I got my handy dandy blender here. Let's dump my smashed up batter mix in there. Let's see if we can't do something with that. Well, that powdered up really quickly, easily. So I'm going to put that back in my tray here. Get it all. So we said that was 3/4 of a cup of water, wasn't it? So rather than weigh it out, let's just try 3/4 of a cup of water. Let's see if this reconstitutes any better. I tried the one that I had the chunks in with my whisk here. It didn't work. But we'll get that soft. I ain't gonna waste that. I'll use it somehow. Might have to put it in the fridge and let it really soak. Alright, so let's get this mixed up. So far so good. It is mixing better, reconstituting better. I guess I could have turned that freeze dryer off, put it in defrost mode. I just like to package everything before I do that. In case I come up with issues, all I have to do is add more dry time without skipping cycles and all that stuff. It seems kind of runny to me. I don't remember it being that runny. Was that 3/4 of a cup we said earlier? I'm going to have to weigh this and see. Zero that. This should weigh 375. That's 400. That shouldn't make much difference. That's close enough. This is thickening up because it's absorbing that water into those chunks. So we're going to call that good. Okay, we're getting there. Let's add our jalapenos. And our baking powder. I'm going to try and edit that down to something more reliable and understandable. Cut out a bunch of that. Guess what I should have done? Instead of going to 3/4, I should have weighed out my water to 177 grams and done it that way. Because the 3/4 gave me an extra 25 grams of water, which ain't too bad. We'll find out if it affects the cornbread at all. Alright. So I'm going to leave that sit for a minute to let that baking powder do its stuff. Then I'll give it a gentle stir and we'll pop it in my preheated oven that is preheated to 425 degrees. I'll see you when we do that. Okay, I've let that set for a couple of minutes. So I'm going to transfer that over to the oven and we're going to bake it in a 425 degree oven for 20 to 23 minutes, the package says. So we'll see you when it comes out and wish me luck. And there we have it. It has come out of the oven and it looks pretty good. Now I did not grease this pan because I was thinking, you know, in a camping situation or a survival situation, we might not have that privilege of greasing. So I'm going to see if I can get it out of here in one piece without greasing the pan. Alright, let's see. Still a little bit warm. It did stick to the pan a little bit. Alright, so it did stick a little bit. In an ideal situation, you'd spray some Pam in that, but we reconstituted that in the pan, so that wasn't really an option. So let's get a knife, cut from this nice end down here. Let's see what it looks like on the inside. That bottom is a little bit tough for some reason. There we go. That's what it looks like on the inside. Let's have a taste. See what that is. It's still warm. Yeah. I'd say that's a success. Tastes like cornbread, sweet cornbread. Mmm, that's really good. I'm thinking that we are going to call that a success. Mmm. That jalapeno adds a little kick to the sweetness of the cornbread. Which is a really nice touch. I'm super happy with those results. Let me tell you, nothing like being able to have a little bit of bread in your survival kit. And there it is. Let's see. Cornbread made from a freeze-dried batter by John and Bibbs. Let me tell you what you think, and let me tell you if you try this out. Alright, I'm going to go pass this on to my brother, let him taste that, and then we'll come back and we'll go review what we did right and what we did wrong, and hopefully you'll try it out. Hold on a second. Okay, so what did we do? We mixed up our batter according to the directions on the Aunt Jemima yellow cornmeal package. I substituted applesauce for the oil. Equal amounts of applesauce, what the recipe calls for, in oil. The only thing we didn't do is we didn't add the baking powder to the batter. We put that aside. We then poured the batter into those 4-ounce round molds so that we could kind of get a nice, we wanted to get a portion size and also a weight so that we can figure out how much water to add to the batter to reconstitute. And we came up with one of those discs weighed 125 grams. If I'm remembering this right. 125 grams prior to freeze drying. And let me look at my paperwork here. And 66 grams after freeze drying. So we needed to add 59 grams of water per disc to reconstitute. And so let's see, my pans that I would use 3 discs, so 3 times 59 was 177 grams of water, which worked out to be approximately 3/4 of a cup of water. And I'm pretty happy with those results at 3/4 of a cup. Now, to package the batter after it was freeze dried, initially I just tried breaking it up into large chunks and reconstituting it that way, and it just did not want to absorb the water. It just wouldn't do it. So the solution to that is to decide how many discs you want to put in a package, in my case 3, Put 3 discs in your Vitamix or your blender. I have a blender, so I put it in my blender and ran that impulsed, and it powdered up really quickly, pretty easily. And then when I reconstituted that powder, it reconstituted very easily. And when I reconstituted, I let it sit for a minute or two after I got it mixed well, just to make sure that everything absorbed all the water that it could. Then, after letting it sit and giving it a good mix, letting it sit to absorb, reconstitute, I mixed in my baking powder. And for 3 discs that I used for my pans, that was 1 teaspoon, or was it 2? Let me look here. It was 2/3 of a teaspoon per disc. So that was 3 discs would be 6/3 or 2 teaspoons for 6 discs, or 3 discs. And as you can see, it did come up very airy, which I'm really happy with. And another note, when I packaged this, I put that 2 teaspoons of baking powder in a little Ziploc bag just to keep it separate from the cornmeal, so that I could add it after my cornmeal had reconstituted. I did the same with my jalapeno peppers. That way, if you don't want to use the jalapeno peppers for the particular day that you're making cornbread, you just don't have to add those. We reconstituted it. We baked it according to the Aunt Jemima yellow cornmeal instructions, and this is the results. It came out really nice. So it's inspired me to try some other things, and I want to thank my viewer who kind of suggested doing this, because we now know that you can, and everybody likes success. So we're going to call this a success. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you followed me to the end. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.